You stop right there. You could just stop that right now.
Bonnie and Friends. Catch them weekday mornings beginning at 5.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM. Fargo Moorhead.
And welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. It's 103 right now. Temperatures outside Fargo. We're getting closer to 10 degrees out there with wind around 10 to 20 miles out to the south. Getting in on a little bit of BS out there, Bridgette. Some bonus sunshine.
That I am so glad, because if you'd have said blowing snow, I would have been a little bit concerned about how our day might go.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't be a very fun afternoon. Yeah, the lower level clouds are burning off before the upper level clouds are funneling in, but don't get used to the sunshine because more clouds will be rolling in throughout this afternoon. I'm meteorologist Justin Storm. I'm here with Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And this is Weather and Ag in Focus, and we got some fun things in store for today. We're going to be having Clay County Extension Educator Randy Nelson on with us today, Bridgette. We're going to be talking about getting ready for the upcoming spring. What should I plant in my garden? Seed selection, all sorts of fun things. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation at 1:20.
I think it's going to be excellent. And I've got my whole list of questions. I already have my garden map and all my catalogs and whatnot right here in handy. So I get to ask Randy all sorts of questions just based on what I'm already doing. So thanks for joining me to hear about my garden today, everyone. And you know what? We should also visit a little bit about the fact that you guys had a great guest yesterday. I had the opportunity to set up Erica Valdez. She is a rancher on the U.S.-Mexican border. I haven't had a chance to hear all of the audio yet, but it sounds to me like Erica did a fabulous job and she had a lot of great things to share about what really happens down in that part of the country right now.
Yeah, and that video is up on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube page, Weather and Ag in Focus, if you want to go out there and find it, as we've trimmed out just the interview, so you don't have to funnel through for where it starts. And while you're there, check out all of our other great videos that we've been putting up on there. Again, that's Weather and Ag in Focus on Facebook and YouTube. And you can also find us streamed live there as well as Acres TV. Fun things also coming up on the show today. A few ag topics that we're going to get to along with the weather forecast. We're going to be certified Angus beef. What's the backstory behind that? Does it matter if it's certified? Well, I think it might. Your New Year's resolution, don't ditch the dairy. Don't ditch the eggs either. Maybe you should ditch the eggs because they're stupid expensive.
Well, okay, let's talk about that when we have a moment. But yes, eggs are expensive, but this is all part of good nutrition, and eggs are an excellent source of protein, and so is milk and other dairy products. So those will be great things that we want to touch on. And of course, we're going to keep everybody up to date on the weather, especially as we go into what looks to be a really great weekend. And we will continue to do that when we return right after this.
From ABC News, I'm Derek Dennis. Sentencing today against the Trump Organization, but not the former president himself. The company ordered to pay the maximum fine of $1.6 million for decades of financial fraud by several top executives.
Just laying bare the idea that the company is now a convicted felon because of a 13-year scheme to evade taxes by paying certain executives off the books in the form of tuition payments for the grandkids or rent for an apartment in Manhattan. Leases for luxury cars and other things that were never properly declared as income.
ABC's Aaron Katersky. President Biden, meantime, under investigation by a special counsel over batches of classified documents found at private locations linked to the president. Some of the docs found in the garage of his Delaware home.
Biden's team quickly responded to, quote, the mistake. Biden's supporters were also quick to point out that the special counsel investigation of Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents is dramatically different. They say Trump took hundreds of classified documents and fought efforts to retrieve them, and that Biden's team immediately reached out to the appropriate officials once they found he also had classified documents.
ABC's Pierre Thomas. Another American held in Russia is free. Navy veteran Taylor Dudley released after a 9-month detention, reportedly for illegally crossing the border. Unlike WNBA star Brittany Griner, no prisoner exchange was required for Dudley's release. At least 7 dead in powerful thunderstorms and tornadoes across the South. 18 tornadoes reported in Alabama.
Here in Alabama, there's a line of power crews that are already out this morning trying to restore power to this area, and they will certainly need it. because now that this storm has passed, it has gotten really cold here, and now the storm continues to push north and east.
ABC Steve Osensami, condolences for the family of Lisa Marie Presley. She's died at the age of 54. You're listening to ABC News.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Creative Planning presents Rethink Your Money with John Hagenson, Sunday at 6 a.m. Planning for your financial future can be stressful. It involves investments, taxes, insurance, and estate planning. At Creative Planning, we have an entire team working for you, including wealth managers, CPAs, and attorneys, all in one place, all working together. Let Creative Planning show you a richer way to wealth. Visit creativeplanning.com. That's creativeplanning.com.
Planning one's own funeral or that of a loved one can be overwhelming and costly, not to mention extremely emotional. Hi, I'm Craig, owner of West Funeral Home and Life Tribute Center. At West Funeral Home, our staff will educate and prepare you for this journey and work with you to create a meaningful and healing experience, serving the Valley for 4 generations and over 100 years.
West Funeral Home and Life Tribute Center, little things make the difference.
Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us 1:10 in the afternoon. Before we went to break there, we were kind of teasing about not giving up that New Year's resolution. Don't ditch the dairy. Don't ditch the eggs, even though Bridgette, last time I picked up some eggs, it was 6 of them, and they were $4, meaning that it's $8 a dozen, and I've heard some people are paying close to $10 for a dozen of eggs right now. Why shouldn't we ditch the dairy and eggs?
Okay, so do you want to start with why are eggs expensive? I know we talked about it on Monday, but for those who missed it, what do you remember, Justin? What comes to mind when you think about why eggs might be expensive right now?
Something about all the government drones catching some virus and falling out of the sky, right? The bird flu?
Okay, hold on. If we were in studio, I would just walk across the room to smack you one. Okay, so here's the deal. Bird flu is a real thing. It has nothing to do with those drones. Thank you. But bird flu in 2022, we had to euthanize the second highest number of birds in flocks than we ever have. And so just our production is truly down right now. Because once you sanitize a barn, depending on your state regulations, it could be 60 to 90 days before you can bring birds back into your barn. And then chicks don't pop out eggs automatically. They need to grow up to be chickens. And so there's a timeline, usually about a 4 to 6 month period before you start getting eggs. We're also in a down time of year for chickens to actually have good production. So if you have a backyard flock, your production's probably not very good. So you're going to the store to buy. Other things that are driving higher demand, we just came off the holiday baking season, lots of New Year's diets where folks are focusing on protein, and so that they are supplementing that cheaper protein of eggs versus perhaps pork or beef. Don't ditch the eggs, just as we said, for protein, and there's other sources as well, and that's going to lead into dairy. So I'm going to give you some dairy facts to remember. As a kid, Justin, when they told you to drink milk, what were you always told it was good for? What milk does a body good, but in what parts of your body?
It's for strong bones.
And teeth. It's great for your teeth.
Oh, and your teeth.
You are. And your teeth, those pearly whites. Milk brings you vitamin A and vitamin D. Here in the northern states where we have shorter days and less sunshine at this time of year, vitamin D is very important to our diets. kids that are in school, athletes that are spending a lot of time in practices right now, chocolate milk is actually a great vehicle for recovery. Chocolate milk will deliver to you a number of items that help with your sweat recovery. So, for instance, if you're a kid who is getting done with a practice and you're asking for chocolate milk or your coach is recommending it, the reason that they are doing that is it's going to help to replenish. And I'm looking for my note where it tells me exactly what it's going to replenish. But there's some of the potassium, the magnesium, the sodium, and the electrolytes, as well as calcium that you lose during that time of period where you're sweating. For adults, it'll help us lower our high blood pressure. So milk comes with a whole lot of reasons why you're going to want to continue to drink it. And you can also find that extra boost of dairy in cheeses. Don't forget to use real butter. All of those things factor in as well. So that should help us out with our shopping list. Yeah, this weekend
definitely
we can
will.
buy
And
good things.
I'm a sucker for a big glass of chocolate milk. It's one of my favorite things, and one of the only things that outweighs the chocolate milk, strawberry milk. Kind of a similar situation there.
Yeah, I think, whether it's chocolate or strawberry, chocolate certainly has a lot more prominence. The biggest factor is that you have the milk, and that's no doubt, that's not a problem at all. And just a side note, as a dairy farmer's daughter, I remember as a kid when my dad worked with other local dairy farmers to bring a milk machine to our school. Now, you could get cartons of milk in the lunchroom, but right next to our Coke machine and our Pepsi machine in our high school, we had a milk machine, and it dispensed little cartons of milk. We could get white, chocolate, strawberry, even banana. I remember different flavors of milk in that machine, and that was a big project for those dairy farmers to bring that into the school. It was well used by all of our student athletes at the time. So if you're thinking about doing something like that locally, don't be afraid to get that kind of movement underfoot and get it taken care of.
Oh, that's super fun. We never had a milk machine in our schools. You just got the little 1 cup cartons, and you get skim whole 2% or chocolate milk, and well, it was a slice of pizza and chocolate milk for me almost every single day. That was my go-to lunch in high school.
I understand entirely. So speaking of go-to things, let's say you wanted to go somewhere this weekend, Justin. Are you going to give us a little heads up on the weekend weather?
Yeah, the weekend weather isn't looking too bad out there. If you're trying to do early morning traveling, you're probably going to run into spots where you're going to see some foggy conditions in the morning, early morning to mid-morning. And then for the most part, it should mostly burn off into the afternoon. I'm sure we'll get a few lingering pockets of some light fog here or there throughout the afternoons on both Saturday and Sunday. But overall, it's going to be a nice week. Or a nice weekend. We'll have temperatures reaching into the upper 20s, almost 30 degrees on Saturday, mainly cloudy, a little sun from time to time, a southerly wind around 10 to 20 miles an hour. So not bad. Wind chills will be in the, depending on the time of day, upper teens to lower, maybe mid 20s. And for Sunday, kind of the same thing. Winds a little lighter, a little patchy fog, mainly cloudy, a little sun from time to time. Low temperatures in the lower 30s, though, so it's going to be really nice out there. I definitely get out there and enjoy it because I don't have any more 30s in the forecast, at least for the next 10 days. And then after that, it's probably going to get cold again. Temperatures in the single digits, if not below zero. That's something we're keeping an eye on to see if that air mass ends up shifting south out of Canada towards the end of the month. But it's not too bad. We'll be in the mid-teens today, getting in, like I said at the beginning of the show, some extra sunshine right now. Lower level clouds burnt off before the upper level clouds have funneled back in, but clouds will re-increase throughout the afternoon. So it'll be partly sunny to mostly cloudy through the rest of today. South wind 10 to 20, maybe a snow flurry here or there, mainly west of the Red River Valley throughout this afternoon. Tonight, areas of more fog down to a low near 10 degrees. It'll be partly to mostly cloudy, so those that clear out will see low temperatures in the single digits. The rest of us will be around 10 to maybe mid-teens over into Lakes country. And as we head into your weekend, like I said, upper 20s on Saturday, lower 30s on Sunday. Maybe a snow flurry on Monday late in the day as a storm system tracks to our south through South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa. The bulk of that looks to be rain with a little snow on the backside. Not a big deal, but it will bring some slippery travel if you're heading south on Monday or Tuesday. We're in the teens through the rest of next week. We are watching another storm system that may impact our area Thursday into Friday of next week. But again, the bulk of it looks like it's going to stay to our south. So it's just something we're keeping an eye on right now.
Well, I have no problem with that. Let's watch that weather closely. And maybe if you're out and about and traveling, you might want to take the time to go to listen to some of our episodes that we have out on our audio on our website under show archives, or you can catch them on our YouTube channel. And Justin, the one that I'm going to have to finish listening to because I was traveling yesterday and I didn't get to hear all of the discussion you and Dean had with Erica Valdez. She's a rancher down on the U.S.-Mexico border. And when we get a chance today, I'd like to hear from you. What do you think was the item that stood out the most to you that she talked about? What was something that she shared that really stuck with you? And we'll do that after we come back. Oh, yeah, we'll come back. We'll do that after we come back and after we get Randy Nelson, Clay County Extension Educator, on the line with us. And we're going to talk about our gardening questions. So we'll do all of that in this hour. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Are you afraid of the dentist? Putting off much needed work on your dental health because you're uncomfortable in the chair? There's a lot of reasons that people fear dental work. But that's why Sedation Dentistry is here. Dr. Jeff, my dentist, Designer Smiles, does sedation dentistry. It works great. You can complete years of dental work in one visit. Call to schedule your appointment at 701-298-9400 to find out more, or go to fargodentalcare.com. Hey, some big news. The 2024 election could be America's last one. That's the shocking conclusion of best-selling author David Horowitz. In his new book, The Final Battle, David Horowitz reveals a secret war underway in America. Democrats' woke culture and a new generation are destroying our culture and ending our freedoms. Horowitz says their plan is taking place in our schools, our churches, even in our military. This week, you need to watch David Horowitz on the Chris Salcedo Show as he reveals the real threat of Biden, Obama, big media, and more. Horowitz names names. So tune in today to Newsmax, the network I watch, and see Chris Salcedo and David Horowitz. And make sure you get a copy of The Final Battle. Newsmax calls it the best book of 2023. In bookstores everywhere, or get the free offer and save $28. Just go online to finalbattle611.com. Finalbattle611.com and get your free copy today. And be sure and watch Newsmax today.
Ring in the new year with a new ride from Luther Family Buick GMC. We make it simple, offering interest rates as low as 2.9% on all GMC Sierra 1500s. Or experience the new Buick with 3.9% financing on all SUV models for qualified buyers. Plus, no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of these exceptional offers as these rates won't last long at Luther Family Buick GMC. Corner of I-29 and 32nd Avenue South, Fargo. We are professional grade.
In farming, you know being early means you're right on time. That's why the Roundup Ready Extend crop system created the Spray Early Weed Control Guarantee. When you spray before or at planting, you can protect your investment and give your farm an advantage all season long. Find the tools and resources you need to spray early and guarantee your weed control at RoundupReadyExtend.com/spray early. Guarantee is subject to program terms and conditions. Read and follow pesticide label directions, IRM, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices.
I think farming picked me. I didn't pick farming. I'm not afraid to try something new. It's my farm, my family, and our future. My Channel Seedsman gets that. I get access to innovative products with personalized advice backed by data to maximize my yield potential. With Channel, I know I'll prosper for years to come.
Define your future at channel.com/future. Read and follow pesticide label directions, IRM, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices. Copyright 2022 Bayer Group. All rights reserved.
Welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. So glad you are here and joining myself, Bridgette Readel. I'm the Ag Director, along with our meteorologist, Justin Storm. And we have a great afternoon planned here. We want to spend some time visiting with one of our favorite guests, and that would be Randy Nelson. Randy is the Clay County Extension Educator, and it's always like stumping Randy. What questions can Justin and I ask that can get him tripped up? Rarely are we successful in tripping him up, but we keep trying. Randy, how are things with you today?
Hi, Bridgette. Hi, Justin. I am doing great. How about you two?
Doing well. Glad that you're able to join us again. I made the joke last time. We just basically got to make you an honorary show host because you're on with us all the time. It's such a fun time. I love our conversations we get to have.
I
And I
love being
always know
on.
when, well, I know when Randy's coming, and I always create this list of things that I want to ask him, and then I get it supplemented by those who know Randy's coming on and send me their questions. So I have a few today. Um, First thing I'm going to ask you, though, Justin, excuse me, Randy, is what are people asking you right now this time of year? What are the questions that are most prominent that are coming in your office?
Some of the main ones are about seeds, and right now it's about ordering seeds. The last few years, there's been a big increase in gardening. I think a lot of that had to do with COVID, some shortages in the grocery store due to supply chain issues, more people getting into gardening, and it seems as though that trend is not slowing down. So if you haven't gotten your seed order in at this point, you certainly have time, but I would get going on that soon. And not that we're going to be short on any of our fruits or vegetables that you typically would be planting, but if you have specific varieties that you might be putting into your garden, that's where some of the issues can come in, because they may get sold out sooner rather than later.
Well, first and foremost, I don't want to take up all the time here. So for folks who are listening, I would like to call in with their questions for Randy. You can do that at 701-293-9000, or you can send us emails, weather or ag at flagfamily.com, and we'll funnel those right out here to Randy so we can ask him. And so Randy, I'm started. I've got my catalogs. And my next question is, do you have recommendations on any specific catalog that someone should be using, or any trouble with just swiping the seeds off the shelf at the grocery store or a local hardware store? What are your thoughts there on seed quality from any of these places?
Great question, Bridget. And the catalogs you were holding up, I have a few of those on my counter upstairs, and a few other ones. And when it comes to seed quality, really, regardless of where you're purchasing your seed, if it's being sold in Minnesota, for example, they would have had to have done a germination test on there and go through the quality test that the state of Minnesota is going to require. And I assume other states are going to be similar to that. Therefore, the seed that you're purchasing, regardless of where it's coming from, it should be good quality. So I wouldn't be overly concerned there. It never hurts, in my opinion, if you can stick with a company that's maybe been around for a number of years, because they have their name is well known, and they certainly want to keep their customers. So they're going to keep you coming back by providing you with good quality seed.
Yeah, I was just going to ask kind of a similar question. Does the brand matter? Because you see all the different brands, and I saw the catalogs that you were holding up, Bridgette, and mine hasn't quite come in the mail yet. I'm a burpee kind of guy, so that's where I order my seeds from. So I'm waiting for my catalog. But we kind of touched on this in the fall when we were talking about gardens last year, with all the new hybrids that are coming out from, there's just so many different varieties. What would you say to somebody who's going to pick out seeds when it comes to all the different varieties? What should they be looking out for? What should they stay away for? Maybe if they're looking for, maybe I want to be more of a salsa person, I want to have more BLTs, and you got 70 different types of tomatoes.
Right. There probably even more than 70. There's a lot of tomatoes. Same is true for peppers. If you're new to gardening, one thing I would look at, get an idea how big of a garden you're going to have, and kind of get an idea how you want to space that out. Tomatoes can they're not going to take up a lot of space by any means, but you're probably planting those on, 2 or maybe 3 foot centers. And if you have a couple of rows, your rows are probably going to be 3-4 feet apart, something like that. So that'd be one thing to keep in mind, is that space. After that, what you were talking about, Justin, how are you going to use them? Are you looking at a tomato that is going to give you maybe better sauce quality? Or if you were interested in a BLT, then I'd be looking at some of the tomatoes that really have a large fruit, because they're perfect for a BLT.
So, what about those of us who had seed that we didn't use all of it last year? If we're carrying it over, and I kept it in a warm, dry spot. It was in the garage. It was up on a shelf in our heated garage, so I knew that it was going to be safe. It didn't freeze. Is there anything I should be concerned about that I mean, I think about maybe doing a germination test on some of that carryover seed, but any recommendations you would have, Randy, for folks who might be holding some seed over?
If you held it over, doing a germination test, Bridgette, certainly wouldn't be a bad idea. Usually, even keeping it in a warmer location for a year, I think you're going to be fine. A lot of the seed that I carry over, if we have, for example, too many geranium seed, or sometimes maybe even some corn, onions are a little more tricky because it seems like the viability goes down a bit quicker than with some others. But I just stick them into a plastic container and I put them in the freezer. And it seems like having them in the freezer, since they're alive, it slows down all the biological processes and it seems to stick around or stay viable for a little bit longer. But again, doing that germination test wouldn't be a bad idea. And you wouldn't have to use a lot of seed, even if you took 4 or 5 of those seeds, or if you could spare 10, put them onto a wet paper towel. You can just roll up that wet paper towel, put it into a Ziploc bag, put it in a warm spot, and then maybe after 5 days or 7 days, just go through and unroll that and see where your germination is at. The worst case would be that you just have to increase your seeding rate if you notice that the germination percentage has gone down some.
I see. Did you say that you put the onions in the freezer or the seeds, all the different seeds in the freezer?
All the seeds in the freezer. And
okay,
for me, it's worked so far. And maybe there are some seed out there that are better stored in a refrigerator. I just got into a habit of sticking it in the freezer because I can usually find a back corner that it's not being used. Whereas the refrigerator, it just seems there are more hands in our refrigerator. Sometimes things get misplaced or taken out, and that I haven't run into that issue in the freezer.
You see, because that was going to lead into my question, because Bridgette said she keeps them and, stores them where it's warm. And that's how I generally store my seeds, in the package, in a plastic baggie, in the basement. This year, we were in the process of moving houses, and I left all of my seeds in the garage, and well, we all know how cold it's gotten, and well, they froze. Were my seeds going to be fine? And what it seems like they should be, but maybe do that germination test to see what the percentage of them sprout roots over a week.
I would do that. And in some cases, you could even go a little bit longer than that 7-day period. I mean, even up to 14 days. But for sure, by then at room temperature, you should be seeing some germination. But for the most part, most of the seeds, again, if you put them in a freezer, so in your case where they were in an unheated garage, it shouldn't cause any damage to the seed. The biggest issue tends to be when you get a fluctuation in temperatures, and then if you get any condensation inside of those packages where they get some moisture, then you start running into some problems where they tend to spoil a lot quicker.
I see. Well, Randy, when we come back from break, I'm going to ask, what's a good seed or good things to start with for those that are beginning gardening? Say, hey, I think maybe I want to try this, but I don't even know where to start. What should I get? How many should I get? So let's tackle that when we come back. And I'd love to encourage the callers again. 701-293-9000. If you have any questions, maybe you're debating between these two seeds. Well, this tomato looks good, but this tomato looks really good too. Why is this one yellow? This one's gold. Give us a call, 701-293-9000. Ask Randy. He's definitely going to be able to tell you why, and we'll tackle that and so much more when we come back.
Do you suffer with stiff, achy, painful joints? Is pain keeping you from enjoying life to the fullest? Stop joint pain today with Xana Nutrition's A-Calm. A-Calm is a powerful topical cream that helps soothe muscles and sore joints while promoting healthy blood flow. This breakthrough formula is fast-acting and long-lasting, so you can face the day pain-free. It's also loaded with ingredients to help moisturize dry, cracked skin. If you're looking for less pain and more life, A-Calm is your answer. The result is a happier, healthier you. This revolutionary product has helped thousands of people feel better and get back to the lives they deserve. This month only, get 30% off your first order by using promo code 30 at xananutrition.com or by calling 866-420-6700. Again, that's promo code 30 at xananutrition.com or simply call 866-420-6700. Call now or miss out on living the life you deserve.
I'm North Dakota Soybean Council Director Rob Rose from Wimbledon. Best of the best in wheat and soybean research and marketing workshops will be held Wednesday, February 8th in Grand Forks at the Alaris Center, and Thursday, February 9th in Moorhead at the Courtyard by Marriott. The North Dakota State University and the University of Minnesota Extension, along with commodity boards, have joined together to present producers with current research information. In this workshop, farmers will have the opportunity to learn from researchers and extension specialists. These sessions are free and co-sponsored by the North Dakota Soybean Council. Registration is requested. Visit mnwheat.org for more details.
The famous chips, the potato chip, the chocolate chip, the computer chip, the poker chip, the paint chip, and the windshield chip. Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead wants to remind you that the difference in temperature outside and inside your vehicle can make a little chip grow into a real budget buster. So make your repair or replacement appointment today at Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead. Call or go online at glassdoctor.com/Fargo. That's glassdoctor.com/Fargo.
Call the Glass Doctor, we'll fix your paint.
Red River Valley Co-op Power is making your resolution to save easier this year with great electric rebates. Earn up to a $1,500 rebate or more on select heating equipment and a $750 rebate on an electric vehicle charger. On top of the rebate, you get reduced electric rates if eligible and participating in off-peak, nearly half the standard rate. It's going to be a money-smart year for Red River Valley Co-op Power members. Give them a call, 218-456-2139.
West Funeral Home in your difficult time.
Have you planned for all your life's events? At West Funeral Home and Life Tribute Center, we would be honored to have that talk of a lifetime with you. Through pre-planning, we will help honor and celebrate your journey on Earth so you can leave your family a lasting, treasured memory. Discover the difference.
West Funeral Home and Life Tribute Center. Little things make the difference.
You can always count on Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. Always crisp, always easy drinking, always just right. The perfect balance of flavor and refreshment since 1903. Welcome to the High Life. #, 2019 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Celebrate responsibly.
For rejoining us 1:36 this afternoon, I'm Meteorologist Justin Storm with Ag Director Bridgette Readel and Clay County Extension Educator Randy Nelson. We're talking all about gardens, what we need to know for the upcoming growing season, seed selection. Is it too early to start, or how much time do I got? All of that. So many fun questions that me and Bridgette are throwing over at Randy. And if you want to ask him some questions too, feel free to give us a call, 701-293-9000. Now, before we went to break, Randy, we were kind of teasing a couple questions we wanted to dive into for those who maybe aren't very experienced at gardening, or they haven't had a home garden before. Where do you even start? Do you have to dig a big, massive field in your backyard? Can you use can it be a small garden? Like I said, does it have to be underground? Can you use boxes? What about 5-gallon buckets?
There are a lot of options out there. If you're blessed and you happen to have the space, I mean, you could certainly make a large garden. Although, even if a person did have the space, keep in mind the amount of time that it's going to take, because anytime you open up a piece of ground, you're going to have to contend with weeds. And weed control is going to be a big part of gardening, in addition to planting and harvesting and watering. So keep the amount of work in mind. But if you happen to be in town, or maybe you are in an area where you're not able to get a garden in the ground, you certainly could use containers. And they don't have to be expensive containers from the store. Justin, you had mentioned a 5-gallon pail. That would work great because you can easily grow a tomato or even a cucumber in a 5-gallon pail. And typically with tomatoes, cucumber, you could probably even do it with some of the bush type pumpkins. You could do those in containers, and typically the larger the container, the easier they are to care for, because when it comes to container gardening, you're going to have to worry a bit more about watering because all those roots are in that container soil. And on warmer days, when you have a lot of foliage, you have a lot of water transpiring out. So again, the larger the container, the less often you're going to have to go through and water those.
Great. And we're going to head over to the studio line now. If you'd like to give a call and ask Randy a question, feel free to do so. 701-293-9000. We're going to bring in Randy to the show now. Randy, welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for calling. What's your question for Randy?
Yes, I'm wondering, how do you save marigold seeds from year to year?
Great question about saving marigold seeds. And I used to do that as a kid because my grandma always did that. And once those flowers are spent, you'll notice the petals on there are starting to dry up. And then usually when they start to fall off, you could go ahead and just pick off that marigold flower. And if you open that up, you'll find a bunch of seeds in there. And they're very long. And you could just lay those out on a paper towel or on a sheet of paper if you wanted to. Just let them dry. And once they're dry, just go ahead and put those into an envelope. And then you could certainly keep them in the garage if you wanted to, or keep them inside. If you had space and you wanted to, you could certainly put those in the freezer too, store them in there, or you could even store them in your fridge. As long as the temperature is constant, generally speaking, the cooler the area that you store them, the better off that you're going to be. Also keep in mind with marigolds that if you're growing a hybrid marigold, you can still save seed from that, but just keep in mind that the plants that you're going to get from those seeds are going to look much different than that parent plant.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for calling there, Jerry. And Bridgette, I know you got a lot of questions. I got one more, and I'll toss it over to you. When someone's got their garden, if they're doing an above box and they get dirt from their buddy's house who's got a bunch of dirt, or you go and you make your own garden, you're digging in your backyard, should you take into consideration the soil type or maybe the chemistry of your soil in what you want to grow, or maybe a variety of what you want to grow that's going to benefit better, or maybe even just do that to amend the soil?
Great question. If your soil is, if you're in, say, the Red River Valley, and your soil is coming from the Red River Valley, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Generally speaking, you're going to have a higher pH soil. And as long as you're not trying to grow blueberries, you should be in good shape, because blueberries like a very acid soil. I want to say around a pH of 5, which is almost nearly impossible in the valley unless you go through and try to do some. Exactly. You need to do some pretty heavy amending to get our soil to work. But otherwise, if you get that soil in, a couple of things that you could do. One is that you could add compost, which essentially you're adding some organic matter back into that soil. It usually makes it a little bit easier to work, especially if that soil has a higher clay content. Another thing you could do, you could just get bagged peat moss, and you could work that into, again, that's just going to help with the workability of that soil, because sometimes the regular field soil, again, if it is high in clay, when you put that into a raised bed just by itself, it can be a little more difficult to work with, but it's certainly not impossible to work with. And I think having field soil in those raised beds, if you're creating like a raised garden, I think is great. And again, adding peat moss, adding some compost into there is definitely going to be beneficial.
So can I add to that, Randy, that if, because I live in a small town, right? So I'm on the edge of town. It would be very easy for me to take a shovel and a wheelbarrow or a small tractor with a bucket and just get a scoop of soil out of a field, bring it back to the yard and fill a planter box. If you're going to do that, make sure you know if that field was recently treated for any weed control problems. And if you have a discussion with the farmer, make sure you know what was treated, what that soil was treated with, so you can be paying attention, because not all plants will like what you put into that soil. They may not grow well because of what it was treated with, and you may have to wait a little longer before you can plant. So just a reminder, Randy, I bet you get questions about that too from time to time.
Yes, Bridgette, thanks for bringing that up, because it's like what you're saying. Some of those, in particular, some of the herbicides, some can have a pretty long carryover for some crops, and nobody wants to have that happen to their home garden.
Absolutely. Tomatoes, they get a little pessimistic when it comes to herbicides. You got to be kind of careful with those.
Yeah, that is true.
So as folks are making their list, if this is one thing that maybe you and I can talk about it a little bit, Randy, I not only make my list of what I want to order, because then this is maybe the next time you're on, we can talk about garden maps and why you space things out the way you do, and why you rotate your plants around, and so you don't put your tomatoes in the same place every year. But one of the other things that I think about, what am I going to buy in seed versus what am I going to buy in live plants? And do you come across any recommendations, because of our day length, of what you would want to see that's started from seed in the ground versus what should be planted as a live plant when you start getting that garden ready in, say, May or so? Because I've got my list of things, but I'm curious what you're thinking and recommend too.
As far as transplants, given our short growing season, tomatoes and peppers, there might be some that are really short that maybe you could actually seed outside, but in most cases you're going to want transplants going into the ground. And actually, if you look on the back of seed packets, it'll tell you how many days to maturity for tomatoes and peppers. But for those plants, that's actually days to maturity from transplanting that into the garden. So certainly for those two, it's good to have transplants. Usually for early crops of cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, even kohlrabi, I think it's good to have transplants of those, just because you can get a jump start, a little bit bigger going into the garden. You can get a little earlier harvest for those. Some people will seed cucumbers, which is certainly fine right in the garden. If you want a little jump start with those, you can even start those ahead of time or buy transplants at your local nursery, and you should get a little earlier fruiting when you do that.
And I'm with
Bridgette,
you.
I'm curious, what's on your list?
Absolutely. I am. You're hitting a lot of the same things I am. I think about broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts as things that I want to start as a transplant, not directly from seed in the ground, because our growing season's not long enough. If I want to enjoy Brussels sprouts before frost, I definitely need those to go in as transplants. And then thinking ahead, this is the time of year too that if I know that I'm going to be planting those transplants, I might be keeping my extra coffee cans or whatever kind of plastic container that I can cut the bottom off and save them, so that when it's time for planting, I can put them up as wind protection. So, it's January, there's a lot of snow on the ground, but I think there's just a lot of reminders that we should give folks about thinking ahead. What should you be planning for besides your seed? And that can be some of those protection, wind barrier type things to start collecting, so that you're ready to go when it's time to plant too.
Exactly. And I know some people too, for seed starting, you can buy containers for that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you like to recycle, you can make milk cartons work to start your seeds. I know my grandmother used to do that. You could also use egg cartons. Typically the styrofoam ones work a little better, just because they don't fall apart when they get wet. But if you like starting seed, you don't necessarily want to go out and buy containers. Those are some things right now too that you could be getting those in place, and then once the time rolls around, you can get it going with those.
Yeah, that'll be something fun that we can maybe tackle the next time you're on with us, say February. Kind of stay on the trend. Once or twice a month, you join us and talk all about gardens, home plants, and yard. Like I said, I love these conversations.
I'm going to need Randy to review the garden map I'm currently drawing so he can tell me how my rotation is and if I have things spread out the right way. So we'll save that for the next time Randy's on with us.
Yeah, I think the other thing that'd be fun to go over, Randy, is for those that do start by seed inside 1 or 2 months before transplanting into the ground, what do you need to do from introducing your plants under a grow light in your basement or your house to outside? Because if you just put them outside, the wind's going to knock them down and the sun's going to burn them to a crisp. So I think that'd be really fun to tackle next time.
Exactly. Bridgette, just quickly, I love seeing that you have your garden map drawn out. I have little composition notebooks from previous years where I have the garden designs and whatnot. Some people call me crazy, but I love seeing what you have right there. That's great.
I have all my maps going back as long as I've had this garden at this house for the last 18 years. So if you want to see how my rotation has evolved,
that's awesome.
We can go through that.
That is great.
All right. Well, Randy, thanks very much for joining us today. If anyone wants to get more information from you, they want to ask you a question, maybe they watch this tomorrow night on YouTube or Facebook, they want to reach out to you to ask you a question, or maybe even sign up for your newsletter, how can they do so?
They can give me a call at 218-299-7338, or if they go online, if they go to U of M Extension, they can find the Clay County office, and my contact information is there, along with my email. And briefly here, I'll give you my email address, which is nels1657@umn.edu, and they can just drop me a line, and I'll be more than happy to sign them up for our monthly newsletter.
Great. Well, we hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, and when Weather and Ag in Focus returns from the American Ag Network, taking another look at the forecast, got a couple more ag topics we need to get to, and Bridgette's got some questions she wants to ask me about our guest from yesterday, and that was quite the conversation we had, so we'll touch on that when we come back.
Moorhead girls hockey puts a 4-game win streak on the line tonight when they take on North Wright County. This is Larry Knutson for Spud Sports on 970 WDAY 93.1 FM. A top spot in Section 8 is on the line as we close in on the playoff season. It starts tonight, 7 o'clock. Drop the puck. Moorhead and North Wright County, 970 WDAY 93.1 FM.
On the next Coffee Club with Janae and Ronnie.
Have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday, which means it's Small Business Day of the weekend. We welcome Cohen's Creamery.
Also, we'll talk with the folks from a brand new treatment facility opening in the fall called The Ridge.
The Coffee Club, weekdays 8:30 to 11 on AM 970 and 93.1 FM WDAY.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months.
When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
Grains and livestock were mixed to firm on the day. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risvet with this closing market. Grain and oilseed prices had an overall positive response to yesterday's set of USDA reports that showed corn, soybean, and wheat stocks at relatively tight levels with more risks ahead. Wheat was the skeptical market initially with such a large 11% increase in U.S. winter wheat acreage, but traders eventually jumped on the positive tailwinds from the other markets. Those tailwinds did become a bit more choppy overnight into this morning, although soybeans continued to be the leader in the upside for most of the day. Nonetheless, the conviction of the bulls is lacking somewhat ahead of a three-day holiday weekend with the U.S. markets closed on Monday. Now, soybean traders are largely focused on Argentina's drought, which is indeed very intense. The Rosario Grain Exchange captured the market's attention yesterday when it lowered its Argentine production estimate to 37 million metric tons. USDA lowered its estimate to 45.5 million yesterday. The Buenos Aires Grain Exchange called for another 3% drop in acreage planted to soybeans due to that lingering drought, with production falling to 41 million metric tons. Now, there is a path that this market can travel that would see Brazilian soybeans fill the gap in Argentina without U.S. exports being impacted, even with a 37 million metric ton crop in Argentina. Now, that path may not be the one that is traveled, but it is possible due to the largeness of the Brazilian crop. Of course, it's also possible that we could see Argentina's crop fall below the 37 million metric tons, at which time U.S. tight stocks could be threatened. Let's get a look at the final closing numbers. March corn up 4 at 6.75. January beans up 8 3/4 at 15.38 1/4. Wheat Chicago March up 1 at 7.43 3/4. Kansas City March up 8 3/4 at 8.43 3/4. And the March Minneapolis wheat, that is down 1 at 9.11 1/4. Live cattle February up 17 at 157.72. Feeders January down 87 at 181.25. And the February lean hogs, they are down a dime at 78.65. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Ristvet.
Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus here on WDAY. I'm Bridgette, Readel, Ag Director, along with Justin Storm, Meteorologist Extraordinaire. And yesterday I was off traveling, so I didn't get a chance to be a part of the interview. I was so glad she said yes when I called her, by the way. Our interview was with Erica Valdez, and she is a rancher on the U.S.-Mexico border. But Justin, you and Dean got to talk to her, and for those who might have missed it, just like I did, you can go pick that up by listening to the audio on our WDAY radio website, where you can hear that under show archives. You can also click the link to watch the video of that discussion with Erica, and it's also going to be posted on Acres TV on our channel there. But I want to know, when you talked to Erica yesterday, what was something that she said that really stuck with you, that you were either surprised at or just it's something you know is going to be very memorable for you?
You know, Bridgette, you really missed out on that conversation because it really was really eye-opening. There's a lot that's not being said on the media about what's going on, and honestly, there's so many things that she said that stuck with me, and I've been going through this video. I uploaded it up on our Facebook and our YouTube page, Weather and Ag in Focus, so those are also other ways to easily find it. But there's so many great sound bites out of that interview, and a couple of them, I asked her, how have things changed over the last, handful of years compared to where we're at over the last couple of years with the border crisis? And she said, back when she was growing up, I want to say it was the 80s. She said, you had the people that were coming across, and most of them were families or women and children, and we would kind of help them out, bring them water, food. They were really humble. They wouldn't want to take it. They would work for it, so they would get help on the ranch. And in the 90s, the party started getting larger and larger. And over the past couple of years, the key thing that she said is it's just a different type of person that we're seeing now. And she said that it's been turning very violent and a criminal aspect of people where, they're crossing around their land with ARs and U.S. military gear, doing drug runs and drop-offs, and the cartels are involved with it now, and it's just gotten so much more dangerous around her area. And she had mentioned that they have a 10-year-old daughter, and she told 16. Her that
she's 16.
Is she 16 now? Okay, 16. I thought she said she was 10. Okay. That she needs to be observant. If she's out riding her horse and the horse gets spooked, or the dog does, she needs to be aware of what's going on, be, aware of her surroundings. Get this, when she comes home to their ranch, their property where they live, is there water on the ground underneath the spigot? Is something moved where it wasn't left to? Are the barn doors cracked open? Because they have people that come up to their house, and sometimes they're violent group of men, or they don't know what to expect. They don't know if they've had one of their 10,000 gallon water supplies destroyed, which has happened before, their pipelines, and they haven't experienced any like fence breaking or loss of their ranch cattle.
Livestock,
but neighbors that
yeah.
they've had, livestock, they've destroyed pipelines, and they've lost so much water that their neighbors didn't have enough water, and some of their livestock died because there wasn't enough water to keep them hydrated in the heat. So it just blew me away. I really had no idea. It was really eye-opening. And again, if you want to catch that interview, head over to the website, WDAYradionow.com. It's under show archives. You can click there to watch the full-length version of our show, or up as well as on Acres TV. Or if you want just the shortened version of the interview, it's about a half hour long. It's on Facebook and YouTube under our channel, Weather and Ag in Focus. But it was just a crazy interview, Bridgette. It was really fun.
Well, I tell you what, the chances that we get to visit with people from all over the U.S. are fantastic. And we know that there are a lot of situations that develop in our ag community right here locally. And we're always going to touch on those and visit with people who are very close to them. But it's nice to get that broader view. Eric is actually going to be in North Dakota about 2 weeks from now in Bismarck for the North Dakota Farm Bureau meeting. She's their keynote speaker. And so for those who are Farm Bureau members and want to see her in person, that would be your opportunity to go to Bismarck for the Young Farmer Rancher conference and take in what she has to say. So that's just been outstanding to hear her message. And any last recap of the weather before we get to the end of our hour here, Justin?
Yeah, we'll do a quick recap, and then I'll have a full look at the forecast coming up here shortly after 2:06 with the Jay Thomas Show. But basically, your next couple of days into the upcoming weekend, it's not going to be too bad out there. Temperature is going to be really nice. If you're watching the stream, plenty of sunshine outside right now. We are going to have upper-level clouds funneling in, so skies will go partly sunny to mostly cloudy again by the end of the afternoon. Temperatures right now, upper single digits near 10 throughout the valley and lakes country, but 20s and 30s west of the valley into central and western North Dakota. We should be able to reach into the mid-teens today with the south wind 10 to 25. Tonight, areas of fog, partly to mostly cloudy, temperatures single digits to low teens. And for Saturday, we're in the upper 20s. Again, partly sunny, a southerly wind around 10 to 15 miles an hour, so not too bad out there. Probably going to see a little patchy fog in the morning, as well as some more patchy fog overnight into Sunday morning. But Sunday, man, if we could just get some sunshine, we could theoretically be in the 40s, but we're not going to get a whole lot of sunshine, so we'll be trapped in the lower 30s. Oh no, lower 30s. I know, right? It's going to be pretty nice. So get out there and enjoy it. Take the kids sledding. I don't know. We're not going to have any more 30s for a little bit because the next week or so looks like we're dropping back into the teens. But that'll do it for us here on Weather and Ag in Focus. We'll be back on Monday from 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We hope you join us. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next.
970 WDAY AM and